The Story Dragon podcast presents The Leprechaun Stole My Video Games Again. Mia and Bryan were back in their room, staring at their laptops in disbelief. The screens flickered, and then the speakers made a faint crackling sound before everything went dark. "Oh no, not again," said Mia. "It has to be those leprechauns," said Bryan. "They stole the gold out of our electronics last month, and now they're back." You see, the gold inside their devices helped conduct electricity, and without it, their gadgets were useless. Leprechauns loved gold, and apparently gold from laptops and phones was just as good as gold from treasure chest. Mia looked worried. "But last time, we followed their trail of leprechaun dust." "Yeah, but look, they vacuumed it up this time." Sure enough, there wasn't a trace of leprechaun dust anywhere. The clever little guys had vacuumed every little speck with the battery-powered vacuum cleaner, and it was nearly bursting with green dust. It was lying on the floor on its side with a big mound of it in front. "And they didn't even empty it. Ugh," said Mia. Bryan sighed. "Now, how are we supposed to find them?" Mia pondered, tapped her foot, and looked out the window. "Wait, Bryan, look outside." A brilliant rainbow stretched across the sky, its colors shimmering. Mia looked at Bryan and smiled. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Bryan smiled back. "Yup, where there's a rainbow, there's a leprechaun." They threw on their jackets and they went outside, determined to follow that rainbow until the end. As they walked, Mia decided to explain a little bit about rainbows to Bryan. After all, she was an expert. She had a habit of collecting everything she could that was rainbow colored. Rainbow sneakers, rainbow coloring books, rainbow t-shirts, rainbow pens. Anything she could find was fair game. Rainbows are usually formed when the sun is behind you and the rain is in front. The sunlight bends and reflects inside the raindrops, bouncing back to our eyes. Bryan looked at her with wide eyes. "So that's why we see it like a big, colorful arc." Mia nodded. Rainbows form when sunlight bends through the raindrops. Light is made up of a lot of different colors, and when it hits the water droplets, it spreads out like a prism. That's how we see red and orange and yellow and green and blue and violet. They cross through fields and over streams. Every time they thought they were getting closer, the rainbow seemed to shift just a little further away. Bryan huffed. "It's like it's moving." Mia said, "It's not really moving. Rainbows don't have a fixed spot. They depend on where the light bends and how we can see it. But we're getting closer. I can feel it." They continued on, the sun drying the damp grass as the sky cleared. Eventually, they reached a small hill and peeked over. There, at the end of the rainbow, was a brightly glowing structure that the sun reflected off of like a mirror. It was so intense they couldn't look directly at it. It wasn't until they got closer that the sun's reflection shifted and they could make it out. There stood a golden cottage made of wires, circuits, and shimmering gold. Pots, goblets, and jewelry sparkled all around it and were even embedded into the structure to make it stand. Bryan looked at it, wide-eyed. "Wow, a golden cottage!" "It's made of electronics," said Mia. "Boy, I really hope those aren't ours. How are we going to use them again?" They stepped inside and got quite a surprise inside the building. The circular walls were lined with instruments of every kind. Violins, flutes, drums, and guitars. But the bagpipes sat on the lowest shelf within easy reach. Well, what do we have here?" said a small leprechaun wearing green and a bright grin. "Back so soon, are ye?" the leprechaun next to him replied. Mia looked at them and glared. "We know you took our gold again. We need it back." Bryan nodded too. "You can't just steal our electronics. We can't play our video games now." The leprechauns cackled, their tiny hands clutching their loot. "Gold is gold, little ones. Whether from a pot or from a phone, it all shines just the same." Mia thought, "But without the gold, our devices won't work. And then, how will we watch videos about rainbows and about science experiments and everything else we want to see?" "Or play music," Bryan said. "Music, you say?" The leprechauns looked interested now. Clearly, they were music lovers. Their ears perked up and they exchanged sly smiles. Mia saw an opportunity. "Tell you what, we challenge you to a jam session. If you like our music, you give us the gold back. If not, we'll just have to find another way." The first leprechaun laughed. "A jam session, eh? We only play the bagpipes, lass, and no one can match our skill." Bryan winked. "We'll see about that." The leprechauns eagerly grabbed their bagpipes, puffing out a powerful, squeaky tune. The sound echoed through the golden cottage, and, to be honest, they weren't bad. Bryan said, "Well, not bad, guys, but check this out." He picked up a shiny electric guitar, adjusted the strings, and launched into an epic guitar solo, the sound reverberating with the energy. The leprechaun's jaws dropped. They had never heard anything so cool. "Aye, aye, lad, that's mighty fine." Then Mia twirled a pair of drumsticks in her hands. She sat at the massive drum set in the corner and started a rhythmic and powerful beat. The cottage vibrated with every thud and crash. "By the shamrocks, she's a drummer through and through." The second leprechaun grinned. All right, let's do this." The bagpipes wailed, the guitar soared, and the drums thundered. The jam session grew wilder as the minutes pressed into hours. The music filled the forest around them, and the woodland creatures began to perk up. Their ears stood, and they all turned and looked toward the cottage. Before long, they started swaying and dancing to the beat, little furry feet tapping against the soil. And before anyone knew what had happened, they had filed into the cottage. And more leprechauns came too. Everyone was dancing. Beavers and leprechauns, squirrels and raccoons, and everyone had a great time and heard music that had never reached this part of the world before. Then, when the final note rang out, the leprechauns roared with laughter. "Aye, that was grand. You win, little ones. A deal's a deal, and you've shown us new music we'll never forget. The gold is yours once again, until we take it back." The second leprechaun piped up and said, "Before you go, show us how to listen to some of these bagpipe-playing rock bands ye spoke of. We'll be playing some more of that, we will." Me and Bryan shared their devices, introducing the leprechauns to the songs they never knew existed. The leprechauns grinned. "Okay then, dear friends, we'll leave you alone. For 1 year." The children smiled and shook their heads. I guess it was too much to expect for the leprechauns to leave them alone for good. But to be honest, they didn't mind. They were starting to like the little guys. With the gold restored and the music still echoing in their ears, me and Bryan returned home. It had been quite an adventure. That night they tapped their toes in their sleep, remembering the epic jam session with the woodland creatures and their green-wearing friends. And maybe, just maybe, the leprechauns weren't as bad as they had originally thought. And there you have it, folks. One more episode of the Story Dragon podcast. Hopefully you like this one and you like the music too. Have a great week, everyone, and look for another episode coming to you next week. Goodbye, everyone.